And we're back, and we're talking about the United States Constitution. We're now deep in the amendments.
We are. We are in the 25th Amendment. Are you ready?
I am ready for now. We're going to break this one into parts, too.
4 parts.
And I'm Don Frazier. This is Paul Fabrizio.
Yep.
Lay it on.
Okay, Section 1 and Section 2 is what we'll take right now. In case of the removal of the president from office or his death or resignation, the vice president shall become president. That's Section 1.
Yeah, that's not new.
Section 2, whenever there is a vacancy in the office of the vice president, the president shall nominate a vice president who shall take office upon confirmation by a majority vote of both both houses of Congress. Okay, so number 1, the vice president becomes president.
Okay.
It turns out that the Constitution, up to this point, there has been those who would argue that the vice president doesn't automatically take over for the president.
Really?
The vice president is just an acting president. He's not the real president. So
until he's elected in his own right.
Until he's elected his own right. So the sense was that they needed right here, right now, just lay it out.
Just clear and explicit, especially in light of the assassination of JFK.
We need to say this was proposed in July of 1965. Johnson was president, ratified in February of 67. Johnson's still president, but Johnson became president because of the assassination of John F. Kennedy.
Interesting.
And so they wanted no doubt
who was next in line.
Who was next in line. The vice president is the president.
Especially if it was a coup d'etat.
Yeah. Well,
as some conspiracy theorists would believe.
We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Oh,
okay?
Can we?
Believe
good.
it or not.
I can't hardly
in
wait.
Another part of the 25th Amendment. So they're very, very specific. The vice president shall become president.
Done.
Period. Not acting president.
So that means John Tyler was legitimate retroactively.
Exactly.
Not his accidency.
And yeah, exactly. He was the first one who went through that.
Yeah.
So they wanted to be no doubt. Okay, and the second part is the second section is actually in direct response to the assassination of Kennedy. Kennedy was assassinated. Johnson took over. Johnson did not have a vice president.
Oh, that's right.
And there was no provision in the Constitution for creating a vice president.
And this will come up and be important with Spiro Agnew.
Oh, yes, it will.
In the future.
Yeah, not too far
in
the future.
Very timely, this one.
Yeah, this was, I think, a brilliantly timed amendment.
Or was it timed exactly right?
Okay, yeah, right. Anyway, what they realized is that in an era of nuclear weapons,
yes,
where death could rain on you pretty quickly.
Did you pronounce that correctly?
Nuclear weapons?
Yeah, I thought it was nuclear. Sorry.
Nuclear weapons.
Nuclear weapons.
Now you made me lose my train of thought.
Sorry.
No, in an era of nuclear weapons, you wanted to make sure that if the president was incapacitated, if he was dead, that there would be someone else who could make the decision to retaliate.
Correct.
And so, therefore, it was especially important at this time. The thinking, believe it or not, was that nuclear weapons changes everything. And so it was especially important that there be an ability to appoint a vice president.
Because you could do a decapitation strike.
Exactly. And that was a big concern during the Kennedy assassination.
Yes.
In the follow-up, and everybody kept thinking about
the
Lincoln assassination.
Yeah.
And remember, Lincoln, he was assassinated, but there was an effort to go after, his vice president, Secretary of State.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was, a total coup that they were planning.
They were.
And in the Kennedy assassination, there in the same motorcade with the president was Lyndon Johnson. And the governor of Texas was also in that motorcade.
Might have decapitated 2 nations with one strike.
So the thinking was, we need to take care of this. The president needs to be able to pick a vice president. And all it requires is simple majority vote in the part of the House of Representatives and the Senate. And so we've got it. And so a couple years after the Kennedy assassination, we took care of that issue. So, and as you said,
it'll come in handy.
A couple years later, 1973, Spiro Agnew,
Resigns.
all sorts of evidence that he was a crook.
He was a big crook.
He was just accepting bribes right and left. Even as vice president, he was still apparently getting paid off. And so he resigned, and Richard Nixon appointed Gerald Ford, who was the minority leader in the House of Representatives, and a vote in the Senate and the House of Representatives made it official. He became the vice president, and then he became the president, our only unelected president.
Yeah, when Nixon resigns.
When Nixon resigned.
Yeah, so he never had to run for national office in order to become president.
Right, and then when he did, he lost to Jimmy Carter.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so that's where all that comes from.
Yeah, so this is an important thing that they did, and I think it needs to be recognized. Now, we're going to get into the next parts of this amendment, which they're building on the Kennedy assassination, thinking tragically.
Okay, so this is just part 1 of 4
Yes.
of the 25th Amendment.
Yes.
All right, we'll pick up part 2 next time.